Hey everyone, and welcome back to another video. So today I wanted to share with you guys all the books that I've bought in April, and now that I'm looking at the pile, I'm a little ashamed. I ended up buying 12 books just in April, and I really need to change my spending habits because if I keep going down this route of getting this many books per month, I'm going to have accumulated over 100 books just this year, which is a little insane considering all the unread books on my TBR that I physically own. So at the end of the day, I'm really happy with my purchases, and I have already read one of the books in this list in April, and I'm currently in the middle of 2 of them as well. So I am reading the books I buy, but I do feel like I should buy less frequently, and what I've been trying to do is read from the library, and if I love the book, then buy my own copy. But alas, I have not been doing very well at this goal of mine, so here we are with another 12 books to haul, and I'm just gonna get started. So the first book I want to talk about is Station 11 by Emily St. John Mandel, and I am currently about a quarter of the way through this book, and I'm really enjoying it. So it's like a sci-fi dystopian post-apocalyptic story, which I haven't read very much of, but I'm really enjoying this. I really love Emily's writing style. It's just super immersive, and so this book is basically about a pandemic that hits the earth, which is quite relevant right now. So this pandemic ends up wiping like 90% of the earth's population off the face of the planet, and we're left with this group called the Traveling Symphony, and we have the main character named Kirsten, and she's an actress, and they go around to different towns or settlements that are basically left over after the earth has, gone through this massive pandemic. And so we have this traveling symphony that puts on Shakespeare plays and trying to survive in a really depressing world. So there's no more internet, there's no more electricity, fast food restaurants, malls, they're just full of whoever has, remained living, just trying to survive. And Earth as humanity has known it is just not the same place anymore, and it's really depressing. So far, not much else has happened other than the main character with this traveling symphony just going around putting on plays. But then in the book, we're also introduced to a man named G. Van, and he has witnessed the start of this pandemic. So at the beginning of the book, it's kind of his perspective as this pandemic is unfolding. And the author did a really good job of creating a really palpable tension, and I could feel G. Van's fear. And it was so well written and captured my attention right away. And I just want to keep reading. It's super good so far. I do believe in this book there's also going to be a character called the Prophet who just seems to be a very sketchy guy. On the back it says, the traveling symphony is caught in the crosshairs of a dangerous self-proclaimed prophet. So I honestly, I really think that this is going to be a book that I give at least 4 stars to, if not 5. It's super immersive so far, and it's just really captured my attention, and every time I put it down, I just want to pick it back up. So I'm really excited to continue reading this one. Next up, we have The Diamond Eye by Kate Quinn, and this is a historical fiction set around World War II. It's the first Kate Quinn book I've ever read, and so far so good. I'm really enjoying it. I'm about a third of the way through. And so in this book, we have a woman named Mila who she has gone through quite a bit as a woman in Russia. So she's Russian, and she has always wanted to be a historian. So she's worked really hard to get into university. She almost makes it to her final dissertation, but war breaks out. Her ex-husband, she's trying to divorce him. He's honestly a terrible human being. And so to kind of prove herself, she takes some courses on how to be a sniper, basically, and she joins the fight. And this is based off of a real woman with the same name who has over 300 kills to her name as a sniper, and she was nicknamed Lady Death during World War II. So I really like that it's based off of a true story. I love when I read a fiction book like this that I can go and research the people that the story is based off of and see the similarities, the differences, and so far I'm really enjoying it. I will say though that I don't feel this is 5-star material for me. There's a lot of military jargon. I just get lost in that and a little overwhelmed when it's just a lot of, talk about what goes on in different armies and things like that. But I do really like Mila as a protagonist. I really love World War II stories, so this is definitely a book that I am really glad I picked up, and I do think that Kate Quinn will be an author I look for in the future. If you guys have read any Kate Quinn, let me know what your favorite book by her is, because I don't know where to go next. I know there's the Rose Code, and then I know she has some like ancient Rome books, so let me know what you guys recommend in terms of where I should look to after I finish this book. But I do really enjoy her writing. I really like that it's to the point, but also very gritty, and she's not afraid to, you know, go into pretty dark places as she tells these stories. At least that's what I've seen with this book. So yeah, that is The Diamond Eye, and I am really excited to see what I think by the time I'm finished this book. So the next 3 books are all Miss Marple mysteries by Agatha Christie. And so first off, we have The Moving Finger, and I actually just finished this yesterday. So this is the, I think, 3rd or 4th book in the Miss Marple series. I've kind of been reading them out of order, but this one so far has been my least favorite Miss Marple story, although I still think it's worth reading. It's just, it wasn't for me. The mystery itself wasn't something that I necessarily really enjoyed. But in this book, we have a sibling pair who moved to this village. And so the people in the village, including the sister of this sibling pair, so we have a brother and sister, they start getting letters basically like accusing them of really scandalous things. And then someone turns up dead, and the mystery kind of ensues from there. It just wasn't that interesting in my opinion, and the characters really fell flat for me. I feel like I would have enjoyed this a lot more if Miss Marple had more page time, which is definitely an issue that I had with this book. She is barely in the book, but it's still enjoyable, and it still has that, you know, cozy village feel, and yeah, I still would recommend reading it, but this one just wasn't the best in my opinion. But I'm really glad that I got it because I want to collect all the Agatha Christie's. So that is The Moving Finger. So the next 2, I'm not going to say anything about the plot because I don't like knowing the plot before I go into Agatha Christie's, but we have They Do It With Mirrors and A Murder Is Announced. So these are also Miss Marple stories, and these are actually newer editions. I really love the covers. They just kind of remind me of the countryside. They have a lot of like plants on them, and then a little dash of what is in the story. So The Moving Finger has like flowers, but then the quill, and I love that because a big part of the story is letter writing. And so I'm curious what these 2 will have in them. But yeah, this one has some flowers and a little watch there, and this one has a typewriter. So I really love these new designs, and I love to collect more of them. But yeah, these are the 3 Miss Marple books that I got this month. This next book I got because it was $1, and I normally wouldn't get the 4th book in a series unless I've read the ones before. And I only own the 1st book in this series and haven't even read it yet. But I was like, okay, it's $1. These books are like 21 Canadian, which is pretty pricey. So I just grabbed it, and that is Revelation by C.J. Sanson. And this is the 4th book in the Matthew Shardlake series. I think that's what the series is called. So it's a mystery series set during the reign of King Henry VIII. And Matthew Shardlake is the, I guess, detective. He's a lawyer. And yeah, I do really want to read the 1st book soon. And I don't regret buying this book. It was $1. Hopefully I can find the books 2 and 3 secondhand as well, but really glad with this find. Next up, we have a Brandon Sanderson book, which I am super excited to get to, and that is Warbreaker. And this book, I actually have no idea what it's about other than the fact that the magic system revolves around colors, and that's all I know. So I guess I can just read the back. So I don't know how to pronounce anything, but I'll do my best. So it says, Tetelier, capital of Halandrin, no idea, is a colorful city by the sea where gaily dressed crowds bustle through sunny streets and worship heroes who have been reborn as gods. Ruled by the silent, mysterious God King, the pantheon is nourished by offerings of breath, the life force that keeps them alive and youthful. Exiled in Idris, the former royal family reluctantly betrothed a princess to the God King. Arriving in Tetelier, she finds both the city and the marriage are not at all what she expected. Her only ally is Lightsong, a god who is skeptical of his own divinity, who fears that war with Idris is inevitable. Meanwhile, another new arrival in Tetelier, one who bears the sentient sword Nightblood, makes cunning plans based on the unique magic of Halandrin, I have no idea, which uses color to focus the power of breath, plans that could change the world. I have heard really good things about this book. I heard it has a little bit more romance than you would typically expect from Brandon Sanderson. So this is definitely something I am really looking forward to and I hope to read soon. This next book is one that I'm super excited to have in my hands just because of how beautiful it is. And that is Arabella by Georgette Hare. And this cover is just stunning. Oh my goodness, it's so beautiful. So this is another Georgette Hare book that I want to read. I want to read all of them, and so I'm going to be slowly collecting them through the next few years. As per usual, I don't know what it's about. I just know I want to read all of Georgette Hare's books. So this book doesn't actually have a description on the back, so I'm just going to pull up a description. So it says, a fiery debutante, an ill-tempered bachelor, a romance for the ages. Arabella, the daughter of an impoverished country parson, dreams of a new life in London, but her beauty and charm will only get her so far. And when Arabella embarks on her first London season, armed with nothing but a benevolent godmother and her own notoriously short temper, she quickly runs afoul of Robert Beaumaris. He's the most eligible bachelor of the day, with a personality as strong and combative as hers. And Arabella cannot abide him thinking of her just as just another pretty girl after his wealth. So she allows herself to be provoked into a game of deception, one that could have unexpected consequences. So from what I've read already of Georgette Hare, which is a total of 2 books, she's hilarious and I want to read everything that she has ever written. So I'm really excited that I now have this book as well. This next book is a historical fiction that I found for like $2 at a thrift store, and so I just had to grab it. And that is The Women of Chateau Lafayette. And of course, I don't know anything about it because I didn't bother reading the back. I just saw the front and saw that Kate Quinn left a little review of it, so I decided to pick it up. So it says that this is a 3 different timeline story. So I'll just read what it says here. It says, nestled in the mountains, Chateau Lafayette has seen revolution, survived 2 world wars, and harbored more than 25,000 sick and orphaned children. It's a fortress, a haven, the strength of which is not in its stone, but the courage and ideals of those who lived there. So we have 1774. It says, a founding mother, Adrienne Lafayette, as defiant as her hero husband, the Marquis of Lafayette, will face the threat of the guillotine and make a fateful decision that will inspire generations to come. 1914, a daring visionary. Beatrice Chandler is an indomitable socialite with a secret identity who risks everything to change America's destiny and save people a world away. 1940, a reluctant resistor. Martha Simone, a French schoolteacher and aspiring artist, simply wants to survive Nazi occupation until a shocking discovery calls into question who she is and who she's willing to become. Most castles are protected by men. This one, by women. That sounds really, really good. So it's huge. It's over 500 pages, but I'm really excited to get to this one, and I got it for really cheap. So I'm really glad about this find. I actually don't feel so guilty anymore considering a lot of these books were thrifted. So there's that, and I'm really, really happy I was able to save some money. But next up we have Chasing Shadows by Lynn Austen. So a couple years ago, I think it was, I read a duology by Lynn Austen, and I wasn't the biggest fan, so I kind of took a break from her works, even though I have enjoyed her in the past. But I have heard really good things about this one, so I decided to get it. And this one, again, I don't know what it's about because I never do when I buy books. And so this book also seems to have 3 different female perspectives, and this book takes place in the Netherlands. So we have Lena, who with her husband run a farm, and then we have Lena's daughter, who moves to a big city, and she ends up joining the resistance. And then we have Miriam, a young Jewish violinist who immigrated to the Netherlands because they offered her safety, basically. World War II. I love World War II historical fiction, and Lynn Austen usually does a really good job of weaving in faith elements to her stories. Yeah, I am looking forward to reading this. I'm just a little nervous because I wasn't the biggest fan of the last works I read by her, but that is Chasing Shadows. This next book was also $1, and now that I'm looking at it, I'm kind of like, why did I get this again? Because I used to read a lot of books like this when I was younger, and I don't know if I'm still able to enjoy books like this, but we shall see. So we have The Lady of Bolton Hill by Elizabeth Camden. I think what first drew me is the author. I've been wanting to try some of her books for a while now, and this one just seems very, very romance heavy. So it says, When Clara Endicott and Daniel Tremaine's worlds collide after 12 years apart, the spark that was once between them immediately reignites into a romance neither of them thought possible. But time has changed them both. Daniel is an industrial titan with powerful enemies. Clara is an idealistic journalist determined to defend underprivileged workers. So if the non-romance elements in this book are solid, then I think it'll be a hit. I'm just not into this kind of subgenre anymore. But ironically, that doesn't really make sense because I love classic works that are like romance. Like Jane Austen, pretty romance heavy. Georgette Hare is pretty romance heavy. I think it also has to do with the fact that a lot of this type of historical romance, specifically Christian historical romance, can get quite cheesy. And a lot of the times the romances are unrealistic and I just kind of roll my eyes as I read, but I'm willing to give it a try. It was like $1. So the last book I wanted to share with you guys is The Last Year of the War by Susan Meissner. I've never read a Susan Meissner before, but I'm kind of discovering more historical fiction authors that I want to try, and she has been at the top of my list for a while now. So I found this for really, really cheap as well. So I'm glad that I was able to get this. And from what I know, this book is about a girl named Elise and her family living in America, and her father has been arrested and thought to be a Nazi sympathizer. So they are Americans during World War II. So they're sent to an internment camp basically in Texas, I think it is. And then in this camp, they meet a Japanese family who has also been imprisoned there. Obviously, Japan and America were on opposite sides of the war. So this is so intriguing to me just because I've never really thought about the other side of World War II. Like, we always think about the Nazis and like the atrocities they've committed, and war is just such a messy thing. It brings out the absolute worst in humanity, and I really appreciate being able to see both sides and just really see the people who are suffering because of politicians of their home country. So yeah, I am really excited to read this book. I think it is a very interesting perspective to be looking at, and I'm really looking forward to getting into Susan Meissner as an author. So that is the last book that I have purchased this month. All right, so those are the books that I got in April, and like I said, I buy too many books, but thank the Lord for thrift stores where I don't have to feel as guilty. But yeah, I'm really excited to get to all of these books. I'm glad that I've already read one and I'm in the middle of two, trying to get through the books that I end up buying. And so if you guys have read any of these books, let me know what your thoughts were. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate each and every one of you for taking time out of your day to watch my videos, and I hope to see you all in my next video. Bye!